Hello, my name is Justin Chung. This is my cultural awareness project. So, my three cultures or subcultures that I decided to look into were Latino, female, and athlete, student athletes. So, my first question that I asked was pretty simple, pretty basic. Just what city do you live in, your name, your age, and your grade. Just kind of get like some background information on them, but the important part was to see if they lived in the city of Pomona, because I know some students don't always live in the same city that they go to in terms of their school, just like us, how we go to University of La Verne, but none of us necessarily live nearby. So they all answered that yes, they do live in Pomona, and what that told me was that they're used to being stereotyped, because Pomona has a history of being ghetto. So I heard that in a few conversations, in my observations, how like, yeah, you go to Pomona, isn't that the ghetto school? So they're used to being stereotyped like this, and with stereotypes, that's often usually negative. So it told me what kind of things that they're into, because if they live in Pomona, you lived in Pomona, that there's absolutely nothing to do, and it's not exactly the safest place, so this is the stuff that they have to deal with in their day-to-day lives. The second question that I asked my students was, if you could use 3 words to describe yourself, what would they be? And so I have this Venn diagram, because each word represents a bit of who they are, and who they are would be in the middle of the 3. And from my responses, I found out that most of them weren't all exactly familiar with each other, but I wanted to ask them this question to get them to ask themselves, who are you? Wanted them to really think, about themselves, really reflect and ask themselves, who am I when I look in the mirror? And one student said she was really dedicated, and when she said it, it showed that she was very confident in herself, regardless of what people or society may see her as. Another student said he was really trustworthy. That was an important topic to him. So it was important to be considered trustworthy, and I guess that's part of his culture was, you got to be that kind of ride or die kind of guy, Another key trait that most students said amongst themselves was loyalty. And it never really occurred that, loyalty needed to be something that was said about yourself. And what that told me about the students was, maybe they've been let down a lot, been made promises to, and, there was nothing that came through for them. No one really came through on promises, and it's something that may not seem important to you, but is really important to them. The next question I asked was, where do you go to hang out right after school? And the responses really surprised me. I thought they would go out and try to find something to do, because Pomona is so boring. There's literally no parks, nowhere to go to hang out, no place really to loiter. And it really told me something about yourself. Like, for example, if you go straight to the computer lab and play video games, it told me okay, maybe they like to play video games. But for most of the responses, or almost all the responses, was that they would go back to school and do extracurricular activities at Pomona High School, such as choir, sports activities, clubs such as Green Club, which is a environmentally awareness raising club that the teacher hosts. So I didn't really expect most students to go back to school. I thought, they would want to leave right after, but apparently, since there's nothing to do in Pomona, the safest, best bet to have fun would be just to stay there. Stay right at school. Go to your, games, so on and so forth. And this told me that most students end up at school for almost the entire day. I found out that student school activities last till 6 or 7, so they're from 8 in the morning to 7 p.m. at night at school all day. And this is the kind of structure that they're used to. So then that got me to another thought. When they get back home around that late, they have to eat dinner, and then they won't have enough time to do their homework because it's already about that time for them to go to sleep. And that is very important. So when you have students that struggle with the homework, maybe it's not because they're not doing it, but there's just literally not enough time. As you can see, there's only 4 time, and we need a little bit more than just 4. My fourth question was, if money wasn't a concern and you didn't have to work, what would you do every day? Now, told me that if they had lifted this restriction about money upon them, maybe what passions would they want to do every day? And for my athletic students, it seemed like they wanted to stay physically in motion all the time. They'd want to work out, run, keep their mind going. For other students, it was more just chillaxing, doing whatever you wanted.